listen to him in college. High school. Nice guy. It was punk rock music and he got firecrackers going.
I'm like, now that would be somebody shooting up the building. It'd be like a Pulse nightclub thing going on there or something.
Okay.
God,
Let's
that's
do a
fun.
quick
Are we ready?
mic check and then we are ready to go.
All right.
Okay.
I'm going to start with 4. So over here, closest to me.
Do we have numbers?
Technically, I might be closest to her.
Is there a number there?
Yeah,
Nope.
she's talking to
I'm
you.
kind of just going off of what's in the old studio. So
Oh.
1 would be me, and then we go.
Oh,
Hey.
You're 4. I'm 5.
4.
You're
I'm
6.
6.
Can you hear me?
If I
Can
can
you
have
hear
you
me?
talk just a little bit more, please.
Hello, my name is Doxy. Oh, so I might have a buyer on the house already and it hasn't gone to market. Boom!
Hello.
Oh my God, fingers crossed, please, please,
Do
please.
you like the big hair?
Then we'll move on to Lee.
Hi, how are you? Life is good. I'm going to talk without my headphones on at some point, so I hope that's going to be cool.
How can you do that?
Take your headphones off.
I can take my headphones
But
off.
then you can't hear me.
No, we can hear her.
Why
Lisa,
did we-
I'm. That's me.
That's you. I'm Lee.
She's gonna take them off to talk about the bra lady.
Because I was like, why do we take our headphones off?
We don't
Why
have
do we
to.
keep our headphones on?
We keep our headphones on. She's gonna take them off so she can see.
I don't
so
know
she can
exactly.
walk over there.
I mean, it's just a thing that people do, and it looks professional. So
No, you look like a space person.
I
These- actually, those are really cool.
Thank you.
Wow,
I
it's actually kind
All
Oh,
right.
shoot, we're
I
not paying
scrunched
attention.
my hair up today.
It's adorable.
Music going live in 3,
2.
1.
She should do. Watch her. Well, hi, and welcome back to Bras, Bitches, and Balls. Tonight, or today, is going to be a lot of fun, sort of. I mean, we're going to talk about some things that are a little uncomfortable. We have a guest in the studio, a guest we've had before. Her name is Doxy. Doxy, hey, welcome back.
I mean, hey, thanks for having me again.
And Lisa's here. She apparently is looking at me inquisitively.
I'm just like, this is the first time we're gonna talk about something that's uncomfortable.
No, not really.
No,
Really? Like we needed that disclaimer.
Every time I've been here, we've talked about something a little inappropriate, at least.
But we're also in a very new studio. So Podcast Detroit has opened up a new studio in Detroit on Peterborough. And this is the...
Detroit Shipping Company.
Thank you.
Yes, where there's also a food hall and such, and coffee, and all kinds of entertainment, and a parking lot, which is exciting. Which I have a box of clothes for.
I
my
have...
car.
I have
This
I'm
space
very
on
excited.
a Friday night, I can imagine it's going to be incredibly engaged. I've yet been to the space. I didn't come to the opening. I'm bad. But I mean, look at the lighting. Look at the
know.
Yeah,
the
the
architecture and
windows
it's really
in
well
here
done.
are
Yeah,
exciting
everything in
because
here
in
is
the
wonderful.
Royal Oak studio we're in a enclosed room.
Yeah, this is
Here
quite
you
nice.
get to see out and you can see Motor City Casino, and yeah, I bet it is crazy fun down here. I've hardly ever come down here. I actually before this was down meeting a friend of ours who
Yay!
I suggested should join the podcast to talk about financing for small businesses.
Oh, fantastic. That's a great
and he
idea.
said he would love to.
Yay.
Anyway,
That's
so
a great
I was
idea.
down
But we have to
having
be on our best behavior with him because he's a very, very much a gentleman.
I'm sorry, I just had coffee with Derek. Not that he was not a gentleman. No, nothing inappropriate happened. Nothing inappropriate happened. He's a very, very lovely person. But so we had breakfast in Corktown, and I was like, oh my God, I don't think I've been to Corktown in 10 years. So yeah, it's been forever. So we went to Folk. I had a gluten-free waffle, which was amazing and tasted like not any different than a regular waffle.
Oh, that's awesome.
So they have
okay.
they have gluten-free waffles and then gluten-free bougie waffles if you want to bouge it up. And I'm like, I just want the plain, not bougie waffle.
No,
I'll go for bougie
I
waffles
don't want
anytime
anything
you want.
stodgy.
Let's go.
Coolest thing about them, they add a gratuity because they want to have a fair wage. So they already in the bill.
I love those
is
places.
a gratuity, and then
I
if you
want-
want
I
to tip
want a
on top,
bump.
you can. But they're just like, dude, we want to pay our people. So we're going to pay our people, and you're going to subsidize it by just an automatic 18% in.
That's becoming
in
a thing
tip.
in Detroit.
That's
Roses on
awesome.
Jefferson does that. And
So-
then what they do is they take the donations that you give for extra tips and
Donate it?
them to charities in the city.
That's fantastic.
Yep.
And so I did not realize that that's where the bearded lady is, who I follow on Facebook, but I'd never actually been to her shop. She's hair
Oh, yay. Yep.
person.
A hair person.
Hairstylist. That's what it's called. And so Folk is where we went, and then Mama Coos is right next door. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's where Mama Coos is. I
Yeah.
have not been down here in
Our
so
manager,
long.
Lauren, talks about Mama Coos all the time.
We gotta
And
go to Mama Coos.
speaking about our manager, we're going to connect that to Busted Bra Shop, and we're going to talk about the bra of the week.
Bra of the week.
Bra of the week.
Wait, you want to talk about why we're dressing her the way she's dressed?
Because it's October.
Oh yeah,
Number
Yeah.
one.
one
And
October.
today, dadgum. Today we're going to talk about death. And not the band. I mean, we could. The band is great, but we're going to talk about actual what happens after death. Not like spiritually either, like your carcass, right?
Like you're like the
We
body
can
part.
Talk about that. That's.
I mean, we could talk about
I mean,
it
we
all
could
of
talk
it.
about
overarching
spirituality if
concept
you
of what
want.
we can talk about. Yeah.
Okay, so death is
Wide
is a
open,
topic.
except the band, because I don't have no idea what they do.
I will.
Google it.
I will.
I don't
introduce
want
you.
to. I know it's one of your
wait.
metal bands, isn't it?
You know, death.
A little bit. Yeah.
Okay,
Of course.
Yeah,
They're
they're-
from Detroit.
they're from Detroit.
Are they metal band?
They're a metal band
Yeah, see,
from
no.
like the 70s.
Like from like from when we were like tots.
the
Yeah, okay.
first African.
So you guys could talk. They're African American death metal band.
Yes.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
interesting, but
See?
still,
And they're amazing in
you guys
person.
could talk about them, but I would just have a lot of questions.
I saw them at Orion, and I'd seen them before, and I don't remember where. But I was just,
Orion on Belle Isle.
yeah.
You were there too.
Oh my God! Yes!
Oh my
yeah,
God,
it was
I-
amazing.
I gotta say, the Venn diagram of African Americans and metal bands has got to be like
Bigger, it's bigger than you think.
Yeah, I
it's
actually
bigger
believe
than
it,
you
yeah.
think. Yeah. All right,
Really?
let's talk about
Okay,
that bra.
bras.
That bra. And I'm gonna
Do you want to
get her.
Well, why don't we just can
What?
Doxy just
Yeah,
turn
I
her
can-
toward the camera and
You can. Okay.
What's her name?
Her name is Betty. Hi, Betty. Betty is the camera's over there. I don't know if we can see her or not. Yeah. Okay. Ellen
okay.
says
Woo!
good. We hear.
all right.
All right. So what she has on is a really cool negligee from Azure. It's got kind of a retro vibe to it. It's beautiful on its own. We have pictures of models on the website at Busted in Detroit, or actually it's on Facebook, Busted in Detroit.
Oh, look at
So,
the back of that.
Isn't that beautiful? The workmanship on that baby is really, really cool. They're
It's
like
a
doing
beautiful
something
lace
underneath
panel.
us.
I think they're constructing.
Dig it. I know it's kind of like a dryer.
Okay.
So go ahead and take that little negligee off, and let's expose our panache Quinn.
Hi, Betty.
So Betty is in a panache Quinn set, and Doxy's putting on the negligee. Meow. So this one has a stretch lace upper cup. So Doxy, just pull that lace. You see how it's flexible? It's going to take away that quad boob. You've got nice straps, nice thick elasticy straps. They've got good support on them. The band is a little bit wider going around, so you're going to get more support kind of underneath the arms and in that little wing area that we don't talk about. But it's a beautifully constructed bra, as well as being beautiful. It's
And-
just got the details on it are phenomenal.
Wait, and there's a little bit of like a keyhole at the gore.
Yep, at the gore. The gore is right
The
in
gore's
between
in the middle there,
breasts.
yep.
Yeah, right there.
Because she said keyhole.
And because I know there's a skeleton key in there. Throw that back to October. And the other thing I don't know if shows up on the camera because it's really light is that it's not a white bra. It's a like beigey off-white.
It's got an off-white like supporting cup on
Yeah.
the inside, and then it's got four-part construction to it. So you've got that nice sling. Yeah, that's the four-part construction. So I bring panache because we're having a panache fit event that I put the information up on Bras, Bitches, and Balls Facebook page. And so the link is there if you want to come in to see some of the bra fit specialists who come from other parts of the country to come down and really specialize in their bras. Please come down. You can ask questions. We brought the matching panties. We have matching sets, you guys, and the matching sets typically, depending on the bra makers, go up to 4X. And then we have other panties that we can match to it that actually do go up to 10X. So we can get, and
so
we
they're
have
not
a matching
the
set
part
for
of the
10X
set,
too.
but they'll look matchy.
Well, we can match, but we also have sets that are up to 10X too. So,
I just gotta
and
say,
they're pretty.
like that's a goal. But then I get home, and what happens is I grab a pair of underwear and a bra and put them on.
And you got great bras because I've sold them to you. I know what you wear.
I do, but like I don't matching sets never actually happen.
Well,
for
I
me.
typically wear a different color on top than I do on bottom.
Yeah.
So if I do buy a matching set, I'll go for like the black bra, and then I'll get the matching
beigey or lavender or something.
another color, that goes with it, so that I know it matches. But then I don't go into total convention because screw that. I do it what I want to do. Right? Okay, so
I
we
totally
are.
figured you'd be the kind of person where your socks, your underwear, and your bra match. I'm kidding.
I do know people like this.
I do too.
But I also
I'm lucky
want to
both
let
my
you
socks
know
match.
we are talking about death today.
Death.
See, she doesn't want to say it. She's like, pause.
Death. I'm like, it's like a southern
It's
woman.
a fear-inducing topic, and there's so much anxiety around that. Just the idea of it.
So can we go back before we talk about death, though?
Yeah.
Panache Fit Event. That's going
Yeah.
to be in Detroit.
It's going to be in Detroit.
And in Detroit, where?
It's going to be
When?
at
Sorry.
the
We know where, the Park
Shelton. Well, not for much longer. Okay, so yeah, it's at the Park Shelton, and I put it up on the page. It's going to be October 11th. There's a fit specialist from Panache. From Panache Lingerie coming, and that's going to be fantastic. So, what is the 11th, you ask? It is a Thursday. Yeah, it's Thursday of next week.
Oh, I may be downtown for that because I have to meet our friend Siobhan.
Oh, sweet. So that's going to
also-
be really, really cool.
Do you want to mention, since we now have a signed document,
Yeah, we can
that
mention.
we are expanding in Detroit?
Yes.
Growing?
We are growing in Detroit.
We're going to be a bigger cup size.
And we're going to be opening on Jefferson Chalmers at the end of October.
Go Jeff Chalmers area.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
Way to bring it Far East Side.
Thanks. And people go, but where? I'm like, at the corner of Jefferson and Chalmers.
Literally.
Yes, literally Jefferson and Chalmers.
Yeah.
Chalmers Square, I believe, is the
It's
development.
going to be very close to Norma G's.
Yeah, across the street from, what were the ladies that we went to visit? Was that R&R?
Really? I've
R&R?
got no brain power. Yeah, R&R. It was
R&R.
R&R because we reminded us of the old logo.
Yeah. Well, there was that. I think that was the place that was not open, and then there were the ladies next door who have a cute
Their
little
sisters.
shop.
Yeah,
The
they're very, very
sisters.
nice. All right, so that's going to be
oh,
awesome.
wait a
so
minute, that's-
keep watching.
Yay.
Keep watching that stuff. Watch our Facebook pages for that information because I think it's
Yes,
because
because we'll have a grand opening once we have the racking up in inventory in.
Well, we
Maybe
have a
Doxy will
big
come
event
in
on
for a
October
fitting.
20th.
What's that?
We're gonna come
What'd
in.
you say, Doxy?
She's gonna come in for a fitting.
Oh my gosh, we're gonna have a party. Doxy, we're gonna have a party on the day you come in for a fitting, which will be October 20th, right?
In a bra would be hilarious. I just wear sports things that make them all
probably
go.
find
we
it
could
very
we could do
interesting.
a fashion show as part of that. Doreen and Doxy,
We're-
all D people.
We're working on all kinds of things. Let's keep moving. Oh, you know what I did?
Tell us.
What'd you do?
What I do last weekend? I already put a picture up on
Oh, that's right. Once bitten.
Twice Shy, baby. I went and met Great White. I mean, I saw them. I met them, and it was awesome. So
So you know.
So
you
your
know what I did?
14-year-old's coming out right now?
18.
18. Okay.
My 14.
My 14,
You know,
yeah.
you know what I did? You know what I did on Saturday? I know. You know what I did?
what?
I took my bestie and we went to the DIA.
Oh, that's right. You did.
Oh, you went to the costume show.
She did.
Boom. How was it?
And Lee had gone a couple weeks ago, so it was.
I wanna-
She was like, she wants a.
Oh, hi, yes,
you
sorry.
really were hanging.
She leaves me every time. I don't matter.
It was amazing. So I like to sew, but I never do, and I love costumes, which I'm not.
Costume.
I'm not a good enough seamstress to do.
She really is. She
costumery,
just
but-
doesn't think
She's
she is. She's
self-deprecating,
amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
whatever.
And
Great.
no, seriously, like the amount of work in these costumes, it's amazing.
Oh.
Because the best part about it for me is a costume, like seamstress kind of person, was the books.
Yeah.
So they
Oh,
had pictures
yeah.
of the costume books with the drawings, and then the various swatches of fabric and how they looked when they're dyed differently, and with
Ooh.
embroidery on them.
Did you listen to the people taking you through? Did you do
Yeah.
the audio tour? Which one did you listen to?
I started with the kids one, and then I realized it was for kids. The adult one. I'm
I
like,
did both.
young Jedi. I'm like,
Wait a minute.
I did both because Lively was just like, "This is great." I'm
Yeah.
like, "I'm listening to the kids one." He's like, "I'm listening to the adult one." I was like,
yeah.
"Oh."
And so Chewy the yak hair was pretty funny. Like the amount of, I can't remember how many. Jill would remember because she was like listening to it, and she's like, 50 pounds of yak hair. I'm like, what is she talking about? It was the Chewbacca costume.
But did you see the original, or who inspired Chewbacca?
His dog.
Yeah, who looks like mine.
Yeah.
Look just
So,
like Thor. Got very
yeah, so
excited.
I have photos and photos of all of Amidala's clothes. I mean, her costumery was just amazing.
Ridiculous. And the makeup was fantastic. It's like that should have been in like 8 movies instead of in that. Really,
but the
2.
just they also had R2D2 and C3PO and the
Gold bikini.
the
Hey.
bikini,
Of course, well, I had to have
the Tusken Raiders.
I know a guy who makes those.
I like the Tusken Raiders.
Yeah,
Oh, do
they
you?
had like Ray's Finn's jacket and Ray's outfit.
I liked Ray's outfit.
Yeah,
She's-
it was
I
just
think she's
it
one
was
of my
all
favorites.
just amazing, and it's
But
one
it's
of those
gone
things
now.
where like when you see a painting, you're like, that's art, right? And then when you see clothing, like people don't really respect the amount of
We need to change that.
artistry
Yeah.
that goes into something.
The amount of
Some people
time
do.
and and then it's changing. The craftsmanship
Right.
is becoming a thing again. It wasn't for a while. There was something that the arts made fun of, like, oh, you're just doing crafts, honey.
well, because it's
And-
women's stuff.
Yeah, and then we've elevated it to a point where it's now acceptable and it's highly regarded, and you're getting good prices for it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
The other thing I want to do is I think I shouted out this person before, and I had you follow her because of Brooch Warfare, but Samurai Knitter
Yeah.
on Twitter.
Yeah.
Follow Samurai Knitter. She just did this thing of, I think it was Karl Lagerfeld's collection. Most of it's hideous. It's like overly huge upholstery style, which I appreciate upholstery style fabric, but
Mhm, me
overly
too.
huge jackets. Everything is on a beach and everybody's wearing gloves. It's very weird. So she just posts the pictures and like makes snarky comments. But she also she
So wait, I'll just follow her because she's snarky.
yes, follow her because she's snarky. Stay for the hilarity of the pictures. But like she had done a thing on how women dress and wear things like brooches and jewelry as statements.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So that you're talking through it.
Like
So-
Madeleine Albright and the Queen, they wear
Meh.
particular brooches for particular reasons when they meet particular people.
It's kind of funny. You should look it up.
That's super cool.
Follow it.
It's like
It's
secret
awesome.
language. I like
Yes,
this.
it's the language
Language of
Yeah.
jewelry. So next week, I'm going to go ahead and talk about next week because I want to go ahead and get it out there.
Get it out there so we can talk about death.
Yeah, so we can talk about death. Because death is like, we're not going to
Which
avoid
will
it.
avoid
Death
it.
knocking. Always, every day.
So next week, I want to talk about, and this is going to come, the winter vagina.
Oh,
why do I
the
want to talk about
bullshit.
that?
I didn't even
Yeah.
know that was a
So
thing.
I have found on Twitter that there is a gynecologist who is there to basically fact check Gwyneth Paltrow. And
Which is really easy because she's full of bullshit.
well, but so we're gonna. I want to look into her. I want to see if there's any chance we can get anybody
winter
from there.
vagina.
And they want to talk about the fact that they're going to dispel the myth of the winter vagina.
Who
Did
needs
you
to
know there was a
dispel
myth?
that?
I am so going home and Googling this.
I know.
Give me,
I
give
knew
me an
her
elevator
jade
speech.
egg thing, but I did not hear about
Well,
this
I mean,
winter
the
vagina
jade egg
shit.
has its benefits. I mean, come on. But like,
just not the ones that she's proposing.
yeah, no, I have no idea. I don't follow this woman.
Well, that's that.
I mean,
we're
what
going
is
to talk
winter
about it next
vagina?
week.
Like
we'll
when you're in
talk
the
about it
Crohn's.
next week.
Oh my
We're
God, I
not
gotta
gonna
wait
talk
a
about it
week.
now. It's not
So
a
I
Game
guess
of
you're coming
Thrones
back,
thing.
Can I come back?
Yeah, this is not a Game of Thrones thing. People are actually talking about how to
'Cause then I'm gonna
winterize
talk
your
about the
vagina.
How to
spring
winterize
vagina,
her
summer-
wait, how to winterize? Is there antifreeze involved?
We're going to talk about
Holy
it next
shit.
week. See? So
Okay, I'm
what
not
a
supposed to
tease.
swear in case they come in.
All right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
So,
there's that, and then
we'll see you next week, Doxy, to talk about the winter of
Yeah.
JJ.
I love the JJs.
And I'll end up talking about Great White at some point. But I totally got like obsessed with them, and
Talk about them now.
well, I did. I got obsessed with them. I was like, but wait a minute. They were so good. They were playing to like 75 people. All right.
They have to be so good. It's all they do.
Well, these are not all the original members.
Well, then
And one of them is not all he does. He also tours with some other band that he
Night
was-
Ranger. Do you
Night
know how many
Oh,
Grammys were on
wait,
that freaking
was
stage?
Night Ranger Sister Christian?
Yes. But we like the song. The time has come. And you know, if somebody has better hair than I do, and they're a little bit older, I'm like, you have to be good. You should look at that.
Wait,
I
and
can't stop
you
watching
need a
it.
belt made of chains.
Yeah, well, they
required.
had that too. But they were working so hard, and they did such a great job. Everybody was singing and dancing, and we're giving them all the love, and you could tell they're feeding it back to us. But there's only 75 people in front of them.
Then you know what? I want to give them kudos for that because it doesn't matter how many people show up.
Yeah.
You have this expectation where it should be 5,000 people in order for it to be the success. If 75 show up,
Yep.
you still put on the same damn show.
Well, and their singer was new. They've gotten their third singer in, what, 40 years. And Mitch Malloy is their new singer. Now, he had some hits in his own right. He hit the Billboard 100 back in the 80s as well. And look him up. He was so pretty. Mitch Malloy. And so he's a lead singer. He was doing this great job. I'm like, he is so new. How is he? He was just, it's like he'd been with them forever. He was actually offered Van Halen.
Oh, he's got great hair.
Doesn't he have great hair? He's skinny and he can get up all
This
on
is
this
the most
stuff
important thing
and-
for hair
Oh,
bands.
so he's been in Van Halen for, less than a year.
But he did, but at that point, Van Halen was a hot mess.
1996.
And I would, so he
he was
said
probably
no.
like a David Lee Roth substitute because of the hair and the look.
And he said no. Well, Sammy Hagar, can you say anything?
Oh, yeah, good call, yeah.
So anyway, he did a great job. He was into the crowd. He's new at it. I went and looked him up. I'm like, I want to know more about this human being, and he's really done a good job. He's a producer, and look up Great White again. 80s bands were good. Damn it, the hair ones, and some of the punk ones.
Not all of them, just saying.
Not all of them.
But some
Cyndi
of them were.
Lauper was very good.
I was into that all.
Yeah. So it makes me want to have my big hair back. All right, so now to death.
So she sent me a picture before she left, and it looked like a glamour shot.
Well, I'm
It
sure it
did.
did.
But
that
then I
should
got
be posted
rained
on
on
the
and
Facebook
She
it
page.
looked like
You
a-
should put your glamour shot up.
Well, then it rained on me.
Well,
I wore
but
all
the
my
glamour shot was
skulls.
before
Which
it
is
rained.
perfect.
It did anyways. And then I had a big fake fur jacket. I looked like a giant white yeti. And
Why did
people
she
kept-
have a leather
she-
jacket on?
People kept petting me because it was cold as hell that
okay.
night.
All right.
Yeah, so
She
yeah.
looked like
I'll put you in
an
your fake
albino. She looked like an albino Wookiee, to bring it back to Star Wars.
Yak.
In
So
leather
anyway, and then we'll talk about how all of these guys are dead from the 80s, like Leif Garrett. Well, he was from the 70s, but we talked about Leif Garrett when we were talking.
Garrett's dead. He was
Leif
probably
Garrett-
like my first like
Sean
He was dead a long
Cassidy?
time
entertainment
ago.
crush. Hey man, social pop culture.
No, like didn't he die back in
No.
I
way
don't know,
back in the
dude.
day? Didn't he?
No, he
Am
got
I making
old.
that up?
Yep,
Yeah,
he
you're
got
totally
old.
making
Okay,
that
maybe
up.
is he still
I think
alive?
he's still kicking, baby.
I
Oh,
thought
we're
he
going to find
died.
out.
Yeah, so now we're fact checking
Son of a
ourselves.
bitch.
And Sean
Fact
Oh,
checked
look how
me.
cute
He was
he was so
adorable.
cute.
He was beautiful.
Am I making it up? Is this like that?
You are probably
Who's
making
that
it up.
old?
Oh, he's still alive. 1966.
sorry,
He's-
Leif.
Oh, he's not nearly as cute as he was. Okay. But he
Neither
was
am I.
adorable.
I'm-
None
okay.
of us are. Yeah,
I'm,
he's still
I'm,
alive.
I'm confusing it with someone else from the 70s who.
That's okay. He's
not
still
make it out of
making
the
music.
70s
He's
or
still doing
80s.
vocals and guitar. Wow. Go Leif
What'd you say?
Garrett.
I'm like wrong guy. Wrong guy.
So,
So anyway, okay, Leif is not. Oh my god, okay, that's not the one I was thinking of though. That's not the
he's so
cutest.
cute.
He's still
So
adorable.
cute. He was a beautiful person.
So anyway,
The beautiful people.
okay,
That's so pretty. Stop it. All right, we need to talk
So
about
death.
death.
we're okay.
She's actually hosting something called Death and Desserts.
Death and desserts.
It's based on the concept of
the Death Cafe. Yeah.
Okay, so what is the Death Cafe?
Okay, hold on. I'm going to start this whole thing with a cute little quote.
Okay,
So, Life asked Death, "Why do people love you but hate me?" Death replied, "Because you're a beautiful lie and I'm a painful truth." Unknown quote. Great quote.
Great
So tomorrow, doing a death and desserts at Armageddon Beach Party, which is in the Woodbridge neighborhood at 1517 Putnam. The event's going to go from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. and it's just a casual conversation, so we can just talk positively about death or anything that you need to talk about it in
Time
a
out.
safe zone. Go.
time out. Armageddon Beach Party, is that in that new building that's going to have a bar in it and the Japanese place and the
Yeah.
and the
High five.
cheesecake
well done.
place?
There's a cheesecake place. There's a coffee place.
My
and I'm
friend's
not-
opening
there's a
that
bunch-
bar.
Oh, shut up. Like, wait, the Japanese bar?
Is it the
No, no,
Cheesecake
there's a bar.
Factory?
Oh,
that they-
bar.
no,
No,
I'm just
didn't know.
kidding. It was an old joke from back in the Cafe
Oh,
Detroit days.
sorry, didn't know it.
Sorry. Nobody else does
Well,
either.
yeah. Well, let's go there and check it out.
Yeah.
So this is a couple who've been together for about 10 years, and they are amazing artists. And they're think about it as like modern day psychedelia, and they have a brand. You could tell their style. And
Yes,
they've been
I
doing-
peeked in because they weren't open, but
Oh,
it's
it's
very
super
like
fun.
like dark walls, like very
but
like
there's art everywhere.
it makes me think of like a Deep Purple, like that kind of like the band Deep Purple, like
the
kinda-
psychedelia, yeah,
yes.
but except for our generation, like they've literally painted the floors to the ceilings, and then they have their artwork everywhere, and they have a line of all the things that they sell. And they also collect great kitsch and sell it. Oh my gosh, some of the things that they have in there. And this is their first brick and mortar.
Cool.
So this is
Armageddon Beach
Armageddon
Party.
Beach
I
Party.
like it.
Is it? Yeah.
I
I mean, think about it.
do.
It's kind of like if you think
Yeah.
about the title,
It's like
super
it's
fun.
like you got beach blanket bingo kind of, and at Funicello, and then Armageddon, and you.
But
put
it
them
looks like
together.
something that Matt and Amy would put on at the Lincoln Art Park.
Well, and they have been involved in that environment. They used to sell at Recycle Days on Saturday, and they've done things in the park, and then this
Cool.
is their growth.
So they have been open.
They've been open, I think, since June. I think that's
Okay.
when their opening party was. It was a lovely weekend. It might not even been that long ago. And now what they're doing is they kind of have a lounge area. They've created it for the public to come in and engage
Chill
the
out.
space. It's not just a place to like check out their artwork. It's a kind of a gallery space and
It's a
gathering
community
space, community
Like,
space.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
So they have concerts there. They have poetry slams. They have nice little
Fun.
events. Yeah. And I asked them
Okay.
if I could do a talk on death.
so
and-
so you are actually hosting this event.
I am hosting this event. I have some other people
Cool.
coming in just to like help me, stimulate the conversation. And if it's just a handful of us that show up, again, this is where it starts. And starting this in October kind of made sense because if this happens, we do it once a week, once a month. Like I don't know, we're going to see. But I do think this is a conversation that can be continued because I don't think you're going to cover everything in 3
Well, there's
hours.
so many things to talk about.
So
and what
many.
my idea of what you were doing is probably different than what you're actually doing, and then it may evolve into something
Yes.
totally different.
Yeah, so I am gonna say you asked me what Death Cafe is. So back in
Yes.
2011, the Death Cafe started in the UK, and it was pretty much a guy who just wanted to talk about death, and him and his mom started doing things. Well, there have been over 7,000 death cafes now all over the world. The first one in the U.S. was in 2012 in Ohio, Columbus. Go Columbus! Like, yeah. So I'm sure there's been death cafes in Detroit. I know there's been in Windsor. There's been in Warren, Michigan. There's been in Ann Arbor, but you can have the conversations anywhere. So I've kind of been, let's just say, slightly obsessed with death since I was a little kid. I almost died when I was really young.
Really?
And yeah.
We're gonna circle back to that. Put a peg in that.
Yeah. And I've done a lot of photography on very morbid things. So it's just an evolution of things that I'm not afraid to talk about. But when I talk about it to other people they
get
kind of
creeped
freak out. Yeah. Or they think you're incredibly morbid and macabre, which yes, I am that as well. So, but the more that we talk about it, the more people are like, "Oh, wait, we can talk about it," and it's becoming more it's trending more. So I think this is a time to do it. So we're gonna.
It's
do it.
interesting because my sister used to go to cemeteries when she was a kid.
Oh, I
and,
love cemeteries. Yeah, and do the
do
etching.
grave
grave
etching,
rubbing?
grave
Yeah.
rubbings.
I
And,
lived
yeah,
next to a
everybody's like,
cemetery
"You're so
as a kid.
weird." She's like, whatever.
No, it's beautiful.
When I- it's cool.
We used to take little pilgrimages to see where we came from, and we would
Oh.
find, the markers.
So much
and-
information in a cemetery about
Yeah.
your history.
So
yeah.
my dad would always be like, "We're gonna go and look at great."
I love walking through
so-and-so."
cemeteries
Yay.
and geocaching. There are lots of them that are.
You're a
in
dork and
cemetery.
geocache too.
Do you geocache?
Oh my god! Yes. Okay. I'll tell. Can we go?
Yeah,
Oh my
let's
god.
go.
Okay, so I haven't geocached since cell phones. I used
Seriously?
to geocache back
With
in
a
the
G-
day
with a
when it was
Garmin?
like, yeah.
Oh, okay. We're gonna have.
Oh,
table
okay.
that.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, yeah. So I love walking. There's some really cool headstones. Like there's some on one
Oh
in
my
Crooks
gosh.
that is like I'm sure they're everywhere, but there are several on a little tiny cemetery in Troy at Crooks. I think between Big Beaver and Waddles, maybe.
Okay.
And they're like, they look like trees, but they're
Oh yeah. Some of them are
concrete.
like
it's really cool.
Oh, they're not. A lot
Just
of them aren't
really
concrete.
cool.
They're marble. A lot of them,
Yeah.
especially the
No,
ones
these
that
are
big.
these
Those
are
are the old concrete
formed.
ones
Yeah,
that
they're
textured.
not.
Yeah. I grew up next to a cemetery.
Really.
So I've also this is when you're a little kid that's a little freaky. You don't want to look
Uh-huh.
out your bedroom window because you're like they could be coming.
Right.
Well, and in college, I
But-
knew a lot of guys that would rent houses right on the edges of cemeteries because
Cheaper
they,
rent.
they could get
Yeah.
cheaper rent.
Yeah, that's so
And
Why
of course,
not
we'd
do
all
it?
get whacked
Well,
on our
and
heads
this
be
is
like,
the thing about it
"Dead
too.
people."
Your neighbors aren't going to make a lot of noise.
Well,
If they do, it'll be on the news.
going back to the just like living next to them and partying in them because I've partied in cemeteries, but when I
I've
grew up,
not
when I was a
done that.
kid, people would party in the cemetery next to our house, and like they would dig up and do disrespectful things. So me and the neighbor kids, my sister and a bunch, we would actually mow the place. We would like put the dirt back in the hole
Right,
that they
take
dug,
care of it.
and we would totally tend to it. Yeah, and there was actually a family plot that we dug out, and it was just this beautiful space. And her name was Roxanne, and I used to always go and just put my hand on Roxanne's name, and I never did an etching of her, and I should probably go back and do that. But yeah, death is a part of it, and some of us just some of us accept it for what it is, and we find peace with it, and a lot of us don't.
So this
Yeah.
is kind of an aside to the actually physically walking through cemeteries, but I have a premise of a book that I've wrote 5,000 words on and have not touched since last November. But it started out from a find a grave site. So there's findagrave.com. Are you aware?
for sure.
So you can find graves from wherever. People take pictures of them
Yes.
and upload them to findagrave.com. So if you are doing research,
It's super
you can-
helpful. Yeah.
So back to the Death Cafe though.
Yeah.
So
Metadata.
what is the
The premise of why to do
yeah,
it.
well, and what is it? Is the discussion about planning for your death? Is it about post-death, or is it kind of whatever you want it to be?
What it is a communal space, so we can sit there and talk about anything. So I'm going to come with a handful of topics because I like to talk about death. But whatever the people sitting at the table who are eating cake and drinking tea, bringing a bunch of teapots, and whatever we want to talk about, because if we have open conversations, then we're going to get rid of the fear and the anxiety. There's literally something called death anxiety, obviously.
Well,
It's-
yeah,
I
we're all
mean,
going to go through it, and it is
Yeah.
frightening.
There are a couple of different kind of death anxieties to be concerned about. From my side, as a lawyer,
Oh,
my concern is nobody is worried about death, or everybody's worried about death but don't want to think about it, so they
Ding.
don't plan for it.
right.
So all of a sudden now you're dead, and you're like, whatever, I'm dead, it doesn't matter. And now your kids, if you have them, I don't, but if you did, they're fighting over who gets what because you didn't plan for your death.
Or
Been
what
there.
to do with you. I mean, my
Or
dad. My
right,
dad
do I
took care of
cremate
it.
them? Do they want to be buried? I find cemeteries to be a stupid waste of space, but other people don't. Like that's
Yeah.
my personal view, right? Like, so how do you deal with that? And then as a business owner, it's like, oh my God, if I got hit by a truck, nobody would know what's going on.
Nobody would know what's going on, and then your employees would lose their job. So we
Right.
actually have insurance, life insurance on
Keyman.
me for the job, for the
because you're
business.
thinking ahead.
Yes,
but
you're
there's
telescoped
14
out.
employees.
Thank you. You're
that
doing you're
would
doing
be-
them a service.
Right.
They can't just all of a sudden, oh, Lee's dead.
Oh,
we gotta
Lee's
go.
dead. Gotta yeah.
And the
new
other thing
job.
is we all assume that we're going to grow old, right?
Whatever.
and
I
so
used to want
my
to be
con-
100, and now I'm like, that's so
I'm like,
far away.
well, I'm like, Death, you're my well, and exactly, I'm like, Death, you're kind of my friend. Like, I'm not suicidal. Not saying that, but I'm like, if I die, it's okay. I've lived a good life.
bam.
You know,
I've
it's
come
not
to that
a-
conclusion too.
It's not a like terror. Like as a little kid, you'd think you're invincible, right? And
Yeah.
then in your 20s and 30s, you're like, oh my
I
God,
did
I want to live
not.
forever.
I did
I
not
did
either.
not. I did not think I was invincible because when I was 19, I had cancer, and then I
Well, you
fought
guys
that
both
and
had
built
near-death
that.
experiences.
But that wouldn't.
Yeah.
That was not near death, but it was.
Well,
like,
it was a.
I had to think about it.
It's a mortality
Yeah,
facing
it's
issue.
a mortality thing. But I thought there's no way I'm living past 21. I party way too hard. I drive way too fast.
Oh, I had that one too. Yeah.
I drove motorcycles. I did all
Okay,
kinds. I was like,
so-
I'm just gonna live. I'm not gonna get past 21. It's gonna be a blast. So I didn't plan for after
I
that.
know,
She was thinking about leaving a good corpse.
I was
Well,
gonna leave.
totally.
And I actually wrote a paper about that in college. Is live
Live fast, die young, leave a good corpse.
That's it.
I
Well
know
done.
many people who are like that, but most of them are men.
But-
Like
yeah.
I know
Statistically, for
people
sure.
who are like they're going to turn 50 and they're like, I didn't think I was going to get past 25.
Yeah,
don't know
I
what to do
probably
now."
should've
And
been
like
a
I
guy.
destroyed my body because I didn't think I was going to live past 25, and now my hips don't work and my foot's broken.
I think my last 5 lives were all with a penis. I must have been a guy because that's a lot of people are like.
So you're
Now
good
you're-
with a
a guy.
vagina as well?
I kind of like having the vagina, but
I do too. I do too.
yeah.
But I think it's important that
lived.
the legal aspect that you're talking about, since we don't talk about it, death.
right.
We will not get our papers in order.
Well,
We
and you're
would even
40,
have
so
it-
you think you have a lot of time, and then you're hit by a truck.
Why aren't you doing this as soon as you're? Start talking about this when we're younger. That it's not. It's something that I'll put that off. I'll put that
Right.
off. It's like something I came up. I read about this. It's called the talk and tuck. We just talk about it. Organize your paperwork. Get your wills in order. Get the things. Hell,
Sorry, I
like,
can't get drag queens
talk
out
it-
of my
to-
head
oh,
now.
sorry. but it's the idea of just talking about it and then putting it away, right? You've gotten it done, then you can go and live life. Those of us who understand this, like, we're able to live life fully because we understand death and we're comfortable with it. Those who don't, sometimes it restricts them from even living because they're so afraid
Right.
of dying. And you're like, well, fudge that. I almost swore.
Why
but
can't you? You can
I don't know.
swear.
Can I? Fuck that. Then yeah.
She
So,
said we wouldn't swear in case Channel 7 came.
But
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Channel 7's out there.
All right,
so
good. But
when
I
they
think
open
it's
the door,
like,
don't swear.
I just designed my mom's headstone. We're planning her funeral. she's not dead, she's not sick.
Yeah.
And we're paying for all
Pay it up front.
She's paying all of it up front. That way,
Yeah.
like, it's done. Like, all right, pack her away, get going. You know, where's the party?
Well, and one of the
So
one of the big issues too, and this isn't really death, but the problem is that when you don't think about that, you also don't think about things like if you're in a car accident and your job is involved using your brain. Yeah. Or it's not even involving using your brain, but like if in a disability situation, like I have disability insurance because if I'm disabled and I can't use my brain, I don't have any income besides, the minimal Social Security disability if I don't pay for disability insurance. But also, if you're in a car accident and you're in a coma, who's supposed to make decisions for you? Have you decided whether you want a plug pulled? Do you want to be kept alive in the event that, maybe something happens and you're brought out of the coma? Like, if you don't talk about any of it, then you're not talking about that either. And then your kid or your spouse or your parent is stuck trying to figure out in this emotionally fraught situation what you would have wanted.
Your speculation.
So, and then what you're also doing is we live in a medical society that wants to keep everybody alive as long as possible, no matter what it is. Okay, I'm sorry. That's just the generation of money that they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not cool. So I've been a death advocate for somebody. It was my aunt, and the doctor came to us. She'd had a stroke, and he's like, we can, continue to do this. We can do this, and we can do this. And I was like, or we can take her home and let her die.
Right.
And the doctor just looked at me, and I saw him kind of adjust himself. I'll never forget. I'm looking up at him. He's super tall, and he's like, young lady, you're doing a very good thing. And I'm just like, I'm going to go talk to the family. So we had a family meeting. They gave me a private room in the hospital, and I was like, all right, everybody. I told my auntie, I'm like, we're going to go have a talk. And she's like, okay, I trust you. This is why, I'm your, the medical advocate. And I was like, all right, let's go have this talk. And I threw the three things on the table that the doctor said, and the family's all chewing it. And I'm like, and we have a fourth option. We can take her home and let her die in her own house with dignity, and we can call in hospice. We weighed everything
Hospice
else.
is wonderful.
We
Hospice
yelled,
is awesome.
oh my God, they're angels. Yeah. And so we discussed everything. We argued everything. We cried. And then we came to the conclusion that we were going to take her home. I walked back in the room. Everybody was there, and she looked at me, and I says, we're going home. And she just started to cry, but she knew that it was the right thing.
Yeah.
She knew we're the ones who are greedy. So if we don't talk about death, then the medical industry is just going to continue to make it an industry, and we can't change policy if we don't have the words to tell them no. Like, we need to become agents of our loved ones and of ourselves.
Right. And if all you're doing is extending something that is going to happen and someone doesn't have agency over themselves, or they're going to basically lose it, they're not really there, you're just keeping a shell.
Quality versus quantity? No, I don't want to
You're
be
keeping a shell of someone who used to be there that isn't really the same person, but they're still in the familiar shell.
So, I mean, you guys have heard of the Hemlock Society. Have you heard of the Hemlock Society?
No.
No,
Okay,
I
so,
have not. Well, I think I have vaguely, but I mean, I assume that it involves what's his name?
Assisted suicide.
But yes,
It's
because
not,
what
it's
Socrates
not Kevorkian or Socrates, exactly.
Socrates, yeah.
Well, yeah, but
Like
then
Kevorkian.
Does he
well,
drink? No.
but and they were very popular again in the early 90s. When my dad got cancer in the early 90s, like, we were watching TV, and I remember, like, I don't even know what channel it was, probably 7. Kevorkian comes on, and I'm not looking at my dad because, like, I know he's dying of cancer sitting next to me, and he's like, there's an idea. And I'm like, I'll do whatever it takes, Dad, whatever you want. And so we literally talked about ways that I could not get in trouble and to end his life. He ended up choosing chemo and doing all that. But Kevorkian, he had a service. The Hemlock has a service.
I actually I got to find the podcast, but I just listened to a podcast where they come in and they're like, we can't do these things because it would cause a problem, but we sit with people, let them basically die with dignity on their own. And then we leave before anybody comes.
It's an end
we're
of
not
life
there.
service. Why
but
not?
Yeah, but it's not. I mean, they're not killing anyone.
No, of course
but they're
not.
sitting there with somebody who has chosen to end their life.
It's kind of like a death doula. And that's
Exactly.
actually something that
A
I would
death
love to do
doula.
as well. You're holding
I like
space for
that.
someone. And I think that these are really important services.
Well, and my grandfather died when I was like 6, and he had he had cancer that started in his throat, but he in the World War II he had lost a lot of bone structure in his face, and so moved very quickly.
Of course. Yeah.
And he apparently he would call my dad and beg for him to bring his gun over so that he could shoot himself and things like that. And it was horrible. I mean, it was a year of him
Begging.
slowly dying in awful pain. And so when my dad, my dad didn't think he was going to live past his 20s or 30s. So when he lived to his 60s, well, he was like, how did I live this long? But he had always said, if there's anything that's going to happen like that, I want to die. Like, don't keep me around. I will commit suicide before that happens. And he never did. He ended up going in for gallbladder surgery, and he was on warfarin. I'm guessing that had something to do with it, but he ended up dying that evening at the hospital, and it was a relief, really. I mean, not that I did not want my dad to die, but it was a relief that it happened quickly.
Right.
You know, it was not
quickly.
he had a stroke and then we had to, deal with him after the fact, because he would not have wanted
because that would have been
Yeah.
against his personal wishes.
Right.
And that's why if we don't have he's having these conversations with you, telling you this isn't what I want.
Right.
And so we have to document these things. I'm a notary for a reason as well. Like, I've given tons of eulogies for the family, which are I put the fun back in funeral, let me tell you guys. But these are just really important things. Oh, that was such a cute face you
funeral.
made. It's a funeral.
Well, I'm from an Irish Catholic family, so we always have a funeral.
You're always having a huge wake. Yeah.
Huge wake. Not a lot of people show up to the part where there's a casket.
Yeah.
And I remember my
We
aunt.
didn't have that for Dad.
I remember that my great Aunt Red was
Heads
her
up.
nickname. Aunt Red died, and I remember very vividly. This is like in my early 20s.
Yeah.
We're at the one of the 2 funeral homes in my hometown, and I'm like standing in the back of the room, and everybody is like standing back there talking about going fishing and stuff, and my aunt is like in the front, in an open casket. There's a dead body in the room, but they're just like, oh, how was the fishing trip, Bob? Whatever. But then after that, everybody goes to the bar, to the
Have a-
to
Celebrate
the,
life.
the
There's
town
a
hall,
life
whatever.
celebrating aspect
And
to it.
it's
Absolutely.
laughter
Absolutely.
and telling stories
Yeah.
about that person, the fun stories,
Yep.
the things that you want to remember
So is
about
this
them.
kind of what it's going to be
It's gonna
like at
be
Armageddon Beach Party?
Yes. It's going to be anything that we want to talk about. Like, we can be talking about the rituals of death. We could be talking about, green funerals. We could talk about curating your own.
Right.
Like, I'm gonna
Green
be
funerals. We talked about
We
this.
talked about green funerals because I've always said, if I could feed a tree, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
But do we want to be cremated? When my pop came in and said, I just went and arranged for my own cremation, I was like, hallelujah.
Did it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Well, and this is one of the things that we talking about when we started talking about this, was the fact that this is my issue with cemeteries. You take a lot of space.
Yeah.
And then you put formaldehyde in people's bodies. You
Ah.
lock them up in a waterproof casket.
Yeah.
So you're supposed to preserve this thing, this shell that doesn't really, and nothing exists in it except for
It's a
the
temporary
physical
vessel.
form.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're doing everything we can
Yep.
to not let it decay. And so now there's a movement for natural funerals
Yep.
where it's a pine box.
Right.
Like there's no formaldehyde, there's no preserving the body. It's wrapped in a pine box, wrapped in linen and put in a pine box so that people actually, ashes to ashes.
They also have mushroom pods now, too.
What?
Because mushroom pods decompose so
Right.
quickly.
Cool.
Yeah, like the things that are out there are amazing. Or you could be compressed into diamonds, or be put into fireworks. You could be
Shooting
made into
So
a
wait,
vinyl record.
and how do we find out the information about this? Because we can talk about it.
Wait, I'm
in
sorry.
all
Did you
different
just say
ways.
vinyl record? Because I think
Absolutely,
that
they
may be
can
what
make
Lee
you
wants
into
to
a
be.
vinyl
Yeah,
record.
I would love to be a vinyl record.
The picture was a pink vinyl record. It has your photograph on it, and you can
my
actually do
gosh.
recordings pre-death and talk
And you
about
can make
your life.
your record. Oh, so
Yeah,
you could have your story
You
core.
can have your story.
Your
Yes,
story
you could have
core.
your story core. You could have your
Oh, your-
playlist. Wah, wah. You could have anything on there, and then you give that to your loved ones. You could do the
So it's a
pre-recordings.
memory of you,
It's absolutely a
and
memory
part
of
of
you.
your ashes are in it.
Yes.
That's so gross and awesome all at the same time.
It's so much
It's
better
curating
than
your own
taking
death.
up
Like, I
See,
love the
you come and
idea.
listen to a podcast about bras and we talk about death. What the heck?
and then, well, I mean, if you want to be buried, you could be buried in something like that.
Oh,
but-
I do want to talk about that because I've had several clients who have passed because we've been open 5 years. So one of the things that happens is the loved ones call us. Hi, you've got my auntie, my mother, my whatever's information on file. And yes, we do. She has passed. So we've talked to people at funeral homes to say, we know the body has changed. What can we do to change what's going to happen? And so they gave us some guidelines so we can
cool.
actually help you get the undergarments that are going to helpfully
the-
work for your loved one.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so we have taken care of that before. I mean, if you've got a lady who she's very proud of how she dresses.
Yes.
This is an important part of her life for whatever reason. We'll help
Yeah.
you with that. Especially then, that's why we keep all the information
well,
on file.
especially
too. One of the
if you're
things.
going to do like, so my dad was cremated, but one of the things that we did is we still had the open casket, and he was there to say goodbye to, because
Yeah.
the people in my family believe you got to actually physically say goodbye and see the person so that you are not
It's a
gonna
death
be
ritual
like,
in the U.S. for sure.
they're not, oh no, they didn't really die. And I felt like that about my grandfather because apparently I had been to his funeral, but I blocked it out. I remember my grandmother. I remember walking up to her casket. I remember exactly what she was wearing. It was a hideous lime green suit,
Who chose that?
polyester. I remember staring at her. I remember my aunt telling me in the bathroom, it's okay, big girls cry, you can cry. My grandmother died 2 months before my grandfather.
And you don't remember the
I
grandfather?
remember absolutely nothing
Wow.
about my grandfather's funeral, so I believed that my parents didn't allow me to go. And my mom was like, "We couldn't get you to leave." Like I was the first grandchild, and he would take me every Sunday, like.
No.
So I had just blocked it out. But so I was like, maybe he didn't really die. Maybe he
Maybe
just
he
left.
didn't.
Maybe
Wow.
little kid
man,
stories.
yeah,
Tell
for
yourself.
sure.
But so we did do a showing. So even if you're going to do a cremation later, you may want to have
Right.
the
It's becoming more and more
body
popular for sure.
exposed,
Like,
yeah.
Well, it sounds
So-
like it's going to be fascinating. And of course, it brings up all kinds of stories for that. In the 80s, I drove an orange Karmann Ghia. And yep.
What does this
Not
have
sure
to
where
do
this is
with?
going.
Yeah, okay, where's this
I'm
going?
getting there.
All right, I'm
getting
following it
there.
because I love Carmaghias and I love orange.
But at this point, my dad taught me how to drive when I was 12 because he was always out of town. He was like, oh my God, if anything happens, you need to be able to get in the driver's seat and drive. Whatever.
Great dad.
Yeah. So when my grandmother was dying, I stole the car. And I went out for a party ride and drove all over Mobile,
Let's say I
Alabama and got my
borrowed
friends.
the car.
I thought you were going to say that you went to see grandmother when she was
No.
dying.
Right.
Like,
No.
no, you had.
This is getting to the death part, right?
Right.
Okay.
So, and I hit a curb and messed up the car and all that stuff. Well, she died that weekend. And when Dad came home and drove the car the next day, he's like, son of a, yeah. So I was in trouble at my grandmother's funeral.
Ooh.
And that's one of the biggest
You
things I
got in
remember.
trouble.
I got in big trouble, and to a point where my uncle took my dad to the side and said, dude, give the chick a break. Are you kidding? She went out and partied hard. She lived a little bit of life. She wrecked your car. Sorry. That's her car for the rest of her time with you then, right? Yeah, so I got a
Good,
74
yeah.
Karmann Ghia that I
So
drove for a
my
while.
grandmother's funeral was the first eulogy I gave. The woman could smoke a cigarette where the ash would never go away. So I lit
grandmother
up a
was like that
cigarette
too.
in
That
the
takes
funeral
that
home.
takes good tobacco.
Oh, dude, the woman never moved. She was evil. Anyway, so I lit the cigarette, and the whole family just like, what? I don't know how to smoke. I dropped a cigarette in the funeral home, and I'm chasing the cigarette.
Oh, God.
Come back to the eulogy. I mean, it was a riot, like I
That's
said.
Oh my
So
God,
Put
we
the
need
fun
a
back in funeral.
dustbuster for this and the ashes.
Oh man, yeah.
That is
Yeah.
hysterical.
It
So
was
you're
pretty
going to be
funny.
doing this tomorrow night.
Tomorrow
right?
night at Armageddon Beach
Okay.
Party at 1517 Putnam in Detroit, Michigan.
All
It'll
right.
be at 7 p.m. until 10. We are going to have tea and cake.
So
Death and desserts.
So do you? You're gonna buy the desserts and the stuff there at Armageddon
I'm gonna be
Beach
gifting that.
Party. You're gonna be
I'm
gifting
gifting
that.
tea and
I have some cookies
yes.
for you in the car. Then.
Yeah.
So
I'll
I'm
take
sorry.
'em.
Again, this is next
No, this
No,
is
it's tomorrow.
tomorrow. Oh,
Tomorrow. That
oh,
is
the 11th is your panache thing.
tomorrow, Thursday,
Tomorrow.
October 4th, 2018.
Yes.
At what time?
7 p.m. till 10 p.m.
7
Just a
p.m.
casual conversation about
Death and
yeah,
desserts.
getting us
Yes.
more comfortable talking about death, and hopefully
I
this will
like
become a
it.
series of conversations that we have.
I like it. So, to our tens of listeners, I have a quick question for you. Is there something that you're interested in hearing our perspective on? Because, we're women of a certain age, or at least I am.
Crone zone.
Well, we're all of a certain
We're all of a
age.
certain
Your certain
age.
age is just older than
Yeah,
mine.
my certain age is older than everybody in the dadgum room. So if there's something that you want to hear about, let us know. I know we have some people who listen to us every week, which is great, and we are back on every week. Next week, we're going to talk about. Can I say that right now?
Maybe not.
No, okay.
So no, what
the name
I
of this
want
podcast is B3.
B3.
So, Doxy, you're going to come back next week.
Oh, I'm coming back next week.
And
That's the topic
I
I
would-
want to talk about.
I would like to talk about your near-death experience. Do we have time to do that today?
Well, we started a little bit tardy, so I mean, we
Got a few
we
minutes?
could. Yeah,
Wow,
yeah.
way
Ellen's
to
like,
circle
just
this
do
around.
it.
Well
I do
done.
because well,
Go
I
for it.
I
It's
had
fine.
a ghost encounter, and I'm skeptical, but I truly believe that I did
Oh.
have one encounter
I've
that
had more
is
than
weird.
one.
Well, I'm gonna.
This is a conversation.
Yeah.
So
I want to
think-
throw this at you
so
really
for
fast.
October, I would like to discuss this maybe
Ghosts?
next
Yes.
week. But
Ghosts.
yeah.
That could be the topic after the next topic.
Yeah.
My pop had lung cancer, and when he was passing, like the day that he went to hospice, everybody had left the house, and I was there on my own. We didn't know he was going to hospice yet. All of a sudden, I realized I'm there by myself, but it feels like I'm in a room with 100 people.
Ooh.
I mean, it
'Cause
felt
you
like
are.
they were coming together on me and comforting me. But it was really kind of beautiful and strange all at the same time. And so when the family came back, I said, I think this is it. I think that his family just came. And they're like, what are you talking about? I said, no, I wasn't by myself.
You felt that.
I wasn't by myself. And he went to hospice that afternoon, and 4 or 5 days later, he passed. Now, you can stay in hospice for 5 days, I think, is what they told us. And then you have to, in the building.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
in
sorry,
their
sorry.
center,
We had
and then
hospice at
you
They
home.
sent
Okay.
him to the center.
Yeah.
They're like, you can stay here for 4 or 5 days. I can't remember what it was. And they told my mother, and after that, it's going to be like $8,000 a month. or
It's
something.
ridiculously expensive, yeah.
Right. And so she said, if that's what I need to do, because my dad was strong. He was a professional baseball player. He was always just strong as heck. He could get out of, oh, he's gone. He's strong as hell. I know. Oh well. And he could get out of any restraint, right? He pulled up a toilet when he was in hospice. But they said she said, I'll pay it. Whatever it takes, I'll pay it. Now, my father was incredibly frugal. He died on the last day. He was just like,
I am not
no
wasting
way.
this money.
That money is not going towards that. We are out of here.
That's so funny.
But he shut down the power grid in hospice for like a blip. And the lady walked in and said, was that him passing? And my mom and my nephews were like, yep.
And you tell me that energy isn't real. You tell me that those spirits weren't there. Baloney. I believe in that firmly. I do believe that you had a visitation. I've had them as well.
Well, my visitation was a little different. It was not. It was.
Halloween.
Are we going to
hold
do it on a Halloween
Well, hold on.
podcast?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
should definitely be doing a
So
Halloween
we
podcast.
should tell. So my experience happened at the up in Holly, and I don't know if you've heard.
Is that where that hotel is?
the Holly Hotel?
Okay, we'll talk about the Holly Hotel.
yeah.
And a bed and breakfast in Holly
Halloween
as well.
is on a Wednesday. We
Oh
should-
my gosh!
Go Stars! Okay, so
Yeah.
so that's what we're gonna do on Halloween then. Is
Oh my
talk
gosh,
about
that's
our.
so great.
All right, near-death experience from Doxy.
Okay, I was like 5 years old, and I had friends, Steven and Romy. We were the best friends, and they lived across the street, blah, blah. And each of our parents took us into the pool. So the parents are standing on the outside having whatever parent conversations, well, the ladies were talking about. We're in the pool. I don't necessarily remember getting into the pool, but I remember all of a sudden slipping through my inner tube. And I'm floating. And the size of the pool is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the sky is just gorgeous. I can see my inner tube.
I see this like
Yep.
cinematically.
Cinematically, absolutely. The sky is beautifully blue. I can see their little feet, and I'm just at so much peace. And then it goes black, and then the next thing you know, I'm choking because my mother pulled me out of the water. My mom, like, one of the parents was like, look, she's trying to swim. No, she wasn't. And I've had multiple water experiences. So, yeah. And it was just one of the most beautiful, it is literally the most beautiful memory I have in my whole life, and the most peaceful space I've ever been in. And so that was like at 5 or 6 years old.
That's interesting
Wow.
because this is the thing with drowning too, is people think that you flail and stuff because that's what happens in
No,
movies.
you do not.
But the most terrifying thing when drowning is when you see a kid and then you don't see it.
Yeah.
Because there isn't a lot of flailing and stuff.
Yeah. You don't. There's not a lot of panic. So actually, there's huge things that lifeguards have to go through in learning about, like the signs of,
Right.
because it's not what you think. So yeah, I've had a few interesting life death experiences. I have a lot of guardian angels. Let me
Yeah.
just say that, and I know I do.
I fully believe
So.
in guardian angels.
I got a
because
legion. I don't have just
Yes.
one or two.
I feel like
I went and saw a psychic. Oh my God, we could talk about that again. Like the
I
week
did
before.
that!
We could talk about that the week
I'm
before
calling my
Halloween.
girlfriend who went with me when we were kids. Yeah, actually, her mom took us. But
My psychic was interesting experience.
so when I was about to give birth to Lively, he was supposed to be a planned C-section, and then things went horrifically wrong. And I was in Germany, so all of a sudden everyone was speaking German. And I was like, what is going on? So just know that it was bad. All of a sudden it became an emergency C-section. The wall behind me disappeared.
Whoa.
And they wheeled me into an operating room. And then there were people everywhere. I had so many surgeons on his birth certificate and midwives.
Wow.
When you're having a baby in Germany at that point in 2007, you were like a superstar because there just weren't that many people being born at that point.
Wow.
So their birth rate was really, really low. So I was and we were in a hospital in the little town that we were in. And So anyway, all of a sudden, the doctor realized I was kind of panicking because they had kicked my husband out of the room, and I didn't
not a
really.
good
They're
sign.
they're swiping my body down with fluids and things, and he'd grab my face and in his wonderful German accent, and his name was Professor Dr. Funk. He said, "This is going to be fine. This is going to be good for the baby." And I just looked at him and I said, "All I care about is that you save that baby. Don't worry about me. I'm good." And he's like, "You're going to be here." I was like, "Just take care of the baby." And they woke me, next thing I know, there was some funky stuff that happened while I was out because I wasn't really totally, I was down, but anyway, Jeff Colby. And only a few people would know who I'm talking about.
Jeff.
Yeah. And when they woke me up, I had a baby. They're showing him to me, and I was like, I'm breathing air. Everything is good. And the first thing I say is, because my husband has ears like this, first thing I say is, oh, thank God he has my ears down. I was out.
So did Jeff visit you?
Yeah, he visited me a few times.
Aw.
Yeah, he visited me a few times.
He was a friend of ours who passed away.
Oh, I know.
While-
I already
while I
can
was
tell
pregnant.
basically because you did that whole thing that we do as humans. We're like, oh, something happened. Like we discard the things
Yeah.
that happen because we live in a society that doesn't believe this. And I say bullshit to that because there are so many things out there. We're all energy. There's a veil that it is thin, and it gets thinner for those of us who are open and talk
and
about
I
it.
think there's this whole thing, and we'll talk about this later because it is about time to wrap up.
psychic
But
one.
the guardian
Wrap
angel
it
thing,
up.
I think people think like angel with wings comes
yeah, no.
down, and in my view, it's like every time I've been in crisis, like mentally, I'm like I'm just gonna have a breakdown because one time was I didn't have a quarter for a payphone, and my car had broken down, and this is when payphones were a thing. In all of the hall, like this hall is completely empty at the university I was at. This young African American guy comes up to me, sees me crying, and I'm like, I just don't have a quarter for the payment, whatever. And he hands me a quarter and he walks away.
Yep.
To me, that
As a guardian angel.
is a guardian. Like he showed up
Absolutely.
at just the right time.
Yeah.
No one else was
Nobody else was
there.
around, and he gave me the little bit of help that I needed.
The
And it's like there's always
Yeah.
that.
Absolutely.
Like I've always had that. Like there's something that happens when I'm about to lose my shit.
because there's energies
Yeah.
with you. Yep, I believe that.
We
So we'll
love
talk-
you, Doxy.
So
love
we'll
you
talk
guys
more
too.
about that and ghosties and such on the Halloween episode.
No, we
Yeah,
should do that on the
no,
24th. We should do
why?
psychics on the 24th and ghost on
And
the
ghost
31st.
on the on the 31st.
Okay.
So
All right,
I did.
it's your show. You do it. You guys
It's
tell us.
not really.
I'll just show up.
I
Melissa just sponsors it.
it's Halloween.
I love
so
Halloween.
next week
Next
we're
week.
talking about Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yes, we are.
That was good. And her craziness.
and winter.
And winter is coming, or not.
Winterizing your machines.
But I did want to mention, because last week I mentioned the Freedom House gala, their event, and I said I had the thing, but I didn't have the date or anything because we're a hot mess. On October 19th, Freedom House, who is the organization that welcomes refugees,
Yay.
is celebrating 35 years. And on Friday, October 19th, at Motor City Casino, right over there, they are having an annual gala, which is called
Voices of Freedom.
Voices of Freedom.
Oh my
Okay, can you
gosh.
put that on our Facebook page?
I cannot, but I can send you the thing to put it on the
I
Facebook
can
page.
do that as well.
35 years of doing
35
that?
years. Yeah,
That's
they started. Everything
amazing.
started like during Central America when the Sandinistas took over and everything. That's when most of these
well, that's
refugee
great.
homes started, which I did not know about until I think I listened to a podcast because that's what I do. But it was fascinating. And then so they've just been around providing refugee, that guardian angel. They're guardian angels. And two of the refugees who recently stayed there have just opened, I am not going to say it right, Boabab Fair?
And guess what contest they were in that I'm connected to?
Hatch.
They won Hatch.
And they just opened in New Center, right? Up at Grand Boulevard in Woodward, I believe.
Gonna say yes.
Yes, I believe that is
Yay.
where they have opened now.
Yeah. Hash Detroit has been fantastic. If you're interested in opening a business in Detroit, just look at them, Look at what they offer. See if you can get into the contest. They've had 33 businesses open of their alumni.
But bam.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and some
pretty
of them are
impressive.
winners, and some of them are
Most of them
not.
aren't.
Yeah,
because
there's
most
only
of
one
them
winner,
aren't.
right?
Yeah, we're not. But
So
we-
one winner, but they see the
But
the
I made it in
potential
the
in the
top
project.
10.
Exactly.
Well, it gives you vision. It gives you
Recognition.
Yeah.
So the last thing I want to close with, and then we're going to hit the vomit spots one more time, is my husband wanted me to ask you guys if this was even possible. So chew on it. Let me know later. He would like, when he passes, he says, I would like to be turned into chum and fed to the sharks. Can that actually? And I'm
legally-
like,
legally,
I don't
no.
think so, dude.
Legally, no.
I think that's not a thing.
Well, I
He's
mean, he
like,
could always
Well,
try
there's
to.
the thing about sailors and having their bodies gone out, and things have rules have changed.
I
Yeah.
think it's because we are sailors. I think that's where it's coming
Okay,
from
well
for him.
then you
No,
but
but-
that may be okay then because you're a military
I know a Coast Guard officer
don't
who
know.
had gotten somebody had been cremated and gotten permission to be thrown off the boat, but the problem was that the wind shifted.
All right, so vomit spots, let's go.
On
Love
that
you
note,
guys.
stay bitchy.
Stay fishy.
ceviche. Oh, chum and ceviche is kind.